so I would say I've already started like advertising myself. And so in a way it's already gotten me a couple clients, you know, and so in that way it's been beneficial. And I've tried to do some affiliate linking, but that hasn't really taken off because I think my listenership isn't that robust, and it's been hard for me to contact the people or find out who is actually listening to my podcast. Now that it's been over 6 months, I think the friend listenership has dwindled, right?
Now it's serious.
and now it's more of the people that are actually benefiting from the content. And so figuring out who those people are and getting in contact with them has been hard because I don't know who they are. They have to reach out to me to tell me who they are first. And so I only know maybe 2 or 3 of them out of the, 20 or so subscribers that I see. So
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think I'm also just not understanding exactly who my audience is and what they need so that I can provide them with affiliate links that I think are going to be helpful to them.
So, what would you say to somebody starting off from the ground is involved in running a successful podcast? I know you've gone through this, in so many words, but how would you advise a newcomer to get started? What should they avoid? What should they be doing?
Definitely think of your podcast as something for you at first, because the first 2 months you're just going to have to figure it out. You're going to figure out how to post it. You're going to figure out your editing schedule. You're going to figure out what content you're creating and why and how you want to do it. And so just give yourself that time to figure out how to create.
Okay.
Don't worry about the money. Don't worry about anything else. Just start creating and then try to get on a schedule after 2 or 3 months of, okay, I'm creating 1 week, I'm editing 1 week, I'm scheduling another week. Which is batching your work, right? And so that way you can have a sustainable future for your podcast. And don't be afraid to change as much as you want, because it's your podcast. If you want to go from putting out something once a week to putting out something once every 2 weeks, that's totally fine, right? If you want to go from putting something out, once a week to once a month, that's totally fine. Like it's up to you, because it's your podcast and it's your content that you're putting out there, because you do have to create, market, schedule, edit. Like that's a lot of work. It's 10 plus hours just for one show.
Well, let's assume that you want to use the podcast as a business. What best practices should someone do? Is it, should they be posting more regularly? Should they be?
Yeah, I think consistency is important. Okay. So have a schedule and just be clear about what your schedule is. Because if there's value in one show, people will share it, and it won't really matter when you put it out. I have one podcast that people are still sharing, and I created it in the first month that I was creating. And now it has over 200 downloads, and I don't advertise it. People just share it.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I've been trying to figure out why people share that episode, and why they don't share it, or what was it about that episode that was so valuable to them that they want to share it, and I'm trying to recreate that in all my episodes. And so, as long as you're consistent and have good value in each show, I wouldn't worry that you have to put out once a week or you have to put out twice a week. Just give yourself a schedule that you can commit to realistically. I myself, I'm thinking of pulling back because realistically, I don't have time to do once a week.
I see.
Yeah. And so I think if you're using the podcast as part of your business, one, it's a great way for people to get to know you. Two, it's a great way to have really valuable content that, some people prefer to listen while they learn. Some people prefer, well, they're driving, they need something to do in their car, or they're running, they want to listen to something, right? So you're providing a way for people to get to know you that's outside of maybe reading, blog posts, pictures. It's just another way for people to get to know you. So I would think of the podcast first as that, because you're not going to be able to monetize within the first month if you're just starting a new podcast, right? That would be hard to do unless you already have a big audience or you have sponsors that you already talk to and they want to work with you. If you don't have any of that set up already, just think of it as something for people to get to know you better so that they can buy your products or buy your services in the future. Because I think that's the best way to think about a podcast monetization at first as part of your business, is to not expect it to gain ad revenue, because that's the wrong way to go about creating. Create so that you can be of service to your customers and so that they can get to know you so that they will want to buy from you.
Okay, that's how do you choose a topic? How did you choose your topic?
I chose my topic because it was something important to me and that's happened to me in my life, and I saw a gap for it. I needed, when I was going through this career transition, trying to figure out my life, I didn't know who I could turn to or what kind of help I could get. And so I saw the need for it in the world, and that's why I chose this to focus on, so that I could help people help people that went through the same thing.
And your topic is career transitioning. And
Mm-hmm.
uh, how do you think people have responded to um, your podcast? How have you evolved over time? Are you still doing the same things that you did when you got started? Did you find out that your audience actually, how when you get started and you're targeting a specific audience, but you get moved by the people that are actually responding to your information? Did you have to change your focus based upon your readership, listenership?
Um, so at first I wanted to coach people over the air because I'm a coach, and I thought that people hearing coaching sessions, they could get something out of it, because a lot of people go through the same things. But it was really hard to get people to be open to doing coaching on a podcast. And so at first I had to switch completely to doing interviews.
I see.
Yeah, so I had one idea for my podcast. It didn't really work out because it was just hard to get people to do. But it's easier to get people to just share their story about what they went through. And so I actually, at the beginning, I switched into an interview type show. Um, and so since then, I've just been trying to get better at interviewing, learning how to help people, share their essence and share the most valuable tips and tools. Because, now as a podcast host, that's my job, I think, is to get value out of other people, to share that, to help people learn. And so, yeah, I've had to definitely shift a lot over time, but it's I would say it's like gradual increments. Like every time I did a show, I learned something new that I wanted to change, and now I've taken all those things into the next show.
Okay. Based off of what you just said, so you interview experts or just anybody that's transitioning their career?
Yeah, so I interview coaches and I also interview people who have transitioned their career. And sometimes the coaches fit both. So we'll get their story and coaching advice. But sometimes I'm just getting someone's story about what the career transition that they went through and the struggles they went through.
Uh, So how do you go about finding experts or coaches or just guests
Yeah,
in general?
just networking. I get a lot of my guests have come from SPI Pro.
Okay.
And then a PR person reached out to me to get their people onto my show. So
Well, that's
I've been working with someone who has been sending me people here and there, which has been helpful. I think as you show that you have a committed and recurring podcast, people will find you because a lot of people want to go on podcasts, they want to go on TV, they want to go on shows to improve their own audiences and listenership. And so um, that's been nice. Like people have just been showing up and asking me to be on my podcast.
nice. Do you find getting traffic to your podcasts, is that like something you have to put a lot of time into? And what is your traffic strategy?
Yeah, right now I'm working on SEO for my overall website. And then integrating everything so that it's easy for them to find my podcast. Um, right now, I just share my podcast on social media, and that's how I get the word out there. But I want to look into other ways of sharing it, maybe doing some paid advertising in the future so that I can reach more people.
Oh, wow. Okay. Now, social media, did you have to build a social media? I know like in blogging, most people go in thinking that they're going to just write and, get found, but then they find out that they have to build up some social media to support their blogs. Is that something that you found with having your own podcast as well? That you had to build your own audience, or do you pay for audience?
Um, that part has been hard because I don't have time. I don't have a lot of time to put into social media right now. Like it's hard enough to just do the podcast. So I haven't been able to dedicate, time to Instagram or TikTok or one platform. Um, and I think that's been hard for me to know what is best to do because also I wanted to be authentic to me and my message. And I also just haven't figured out how to speak to people through Instagram because it's so unique. I have to post a picture, I have to have a caption. For some reason, it's harder for me to do that than to do a podcast where I'm just talking to people. So I haven't figured that out yet, actually. Yeah.
Okay, well, is there, being a podcast insider, is there a preferred platform for podcasters? I know that bloggers seem to prefer Pinterest for,
Not that I know of. I think it depends on who your audience is and where they generally live, right? So for my podcast, they could be anywhere. Like they could be on Instagram, they could be on Facebook, they could be on TikTok. Like if you had a listenership, say you did a show for people who are retirees
mm-hmm,
and the best places to live as a retiree, right? Like then your listenership is probably not going to be on social media.
definitely.
So then you'll have to go and figure out where they generally
Go.
go and do advertising that way, like maybe through magazines or the radio or I don't, wherever you think you'll find them. And then some, right, like for you it might be moms, so if where do moms go on the internet that they would see your posts, maybe you would maybe buying some Facebook um, ads and targeting parents would be the easiest way to go for you. So I haven't really figured that out for me and my listenership. That's something I'll have to definitely experiment with in the future.
What challenges should new podcasters be on the lookout for?
Yeah, I think just expecting yourself to make money right away. You don't know where your podcast is going to go, and it also depends on how well you can share it with people, like how easy it is to market, and if you're able to market it while you're doing all the editing and creating. So, don't expect yourself to do all these things all at once.
And get paid for it immediately.
Yeah, and get paid for it. Like I would say try to commit to 6 months if you can. And then after 6 months, then that I think becomes the next level where you start to think, how can I turn this into a business or make money, and start thinking seriously about that. But, give yourself at least 6 months at first to just figure out how to do it and make sure you're doing it in a way that makes sense for you.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. What advice would you give someone that's new, like brand new to podcasting?
Yeah, I would say,
apart from the money, let's say they're not there for the money yet, they just want to have a successful podcast. What advice would you give them?
I would say keep improving, and expect yourself to not be good at it at first. Especially if you are nervous about being, using your voice or being on the air in this way, right? You can edit, but if you're not comfortable speaking to a microphone and public speaking, then that's a whole skill that you need to learn too. So, have compassion for yourself and the things that you need to learn, because podcasting is definitely not an easy thing. It's very multifaceted. There are a ton of skills that you have to learn that you might not even know how to do, and even things that you wouldn't expect, because you're using your voice, right? So then using your voice is a skill in itself, like breathing in the right places, using intonation, changing your volume, changing your cadence, like things like that you wouldn't think about, but are important to audio and having good listenership. So there's a lot of little things that you don't even think about when you start to create a podcast that do help make your podcast better, and you have to learn. And so I would say I've learned, at least 10 new skills from podcasting, right? Because I have to learn how to use the editing platforms. I have to learn how to host. I had to learn like how to write good show notes, right? Because that is kind of a specific way you do things. And so give yourself plenty of time to just be a beginner and learn and do everything, because it's not an easy thing to just, get started and go into and expect yourself to be really good at, right? You need to give yourself time to get good at it.
So definitely give yourself some time. And let's see. Really basically covered everything that I think a new person coming to podcasting should be thinking about. Is there any other tips that come to mind?
I think at first I definitely didn't know. At first I thought my podcast is for other people.
Mm-hmm.
But as I did it more and more, I learned that I'm getting just as much out of it as somebody that's listening, because I get to interview experts. I get to ask people questions that I want to know.
Yeah.
And a lot of podcasters will say this too, like, this is something that we're learning from and we're getting to do. It's like we're creating school for ourselves. That, okay, hey, I know this person is an expert on this and I want to learn more about that. I want to bring them on the show, record it, and share it with people. Right. So I didn't expect it to be something for me as much as it is. And it really is a huge benefit to me. So, after, 9 months of podcasting, I would say, even if I quit tomorrow and nobody ever listens to it ever again, I would be really happy I did it, because I learned so much from it, and I learned so much from all the people that I talked to, and I made all these connections with people that I never would have known otherwise.
Well, interesting. My next question was going to be, what value has podcasting brought to you? But you just answered that. So
Yeah.
let's jump into what the investment is like. Um, is it is it a lot of investment for a new person starting? What equipment should they be looking at? Somebody told me he started.
Yeah, I would say monetarily.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, one of the people I talked to told me he just started with his cell phone. He would video himself while he was driving his car, and but right now it's going into he has a full-blown studio, and actually even helps others set up their studios. So but what should somebody that's brand new to this be looking at in terms of investment? Is it are there
Yeah,
specific things that you must have, or what do you think about this?
I would say it's important. Yeah, I think that that's right. You don't need to buy anything to start podcasting. I know some podcasters who just podcast with the microphone on their AirPods. Right? You can do that. So you don't have to make an investment at first if you don't want to. If you want to do a little proof of concept for yourself and start creating before you buy something, right? You can use Anchor, you can use your AirPods, you can create, 4 shows and put it out there and see what happens. And then if you feel like, oh, I want to make an investment, I think initially I spent about $150 to $200. For a good microphone is about $100. You can get them used. I got mine used for $50. And then a couple things like a pop filter to improve the audio for your microphone. I have a stand that keeps it off the table, but you don't need that. So, really all you need is a microphone, maybe some good headphones if you want to, you don't have to, and then a hosting platform.
Okay.
So yeah, so you can do it for under $200. If you buy everything used, you could do it for under $100. And then a hosting platform is about $12 to $15 a month. So it's pretty inexpensive if you want to get started with the minimal. And I haven't upgraded anything. I haven't improved any of my hardware. So right now I'm just paying $12 a month to host my show, and that's it. That's all the money that I spend on it.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like most people can be able to get into this if they have the will to do it. Now,
Yeah, the time investment is the bigger investment, right?
Investment, okay.
Yeah.
It sounds like there's a lot involved in running a successful podcast from what you have said so far. How do you tie it all together?
What do you mean by tying it all together?
How do you get up in the morning? Do you like batch create programs? Do you
yeah, so I have
a team yet? Do you have a VA at least? How do you get production together and out there?
Yeah, that's a good question. I batch my work. So I will schedule interviews, all within 1 week. So I'll just be interviewing, I'll be researching the interviewee, and then I'll interview them. And then I have all that content recorded. And then the next week I'll start editing them. So I'll just edit throughout the week. Maybe it takes me 2 weeks to edit, and I'll try to do 4 shows at once, so that I have a whole month. So I'll record, then I'll spend a couple of weeks editing, and then I'll schedule them and do the post work. So uploading, show notes, and then planning out my marketing schedule. So all of that actually takes about a month, 4 to 5 weeks to get out for podcasts.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I've learned so much from you in this short sit. Hopefully my audience can learn as much as I did. It's so interesting, it's the tiny little details that you don't get anywhere that you get from people that are actually, you know, working on this. And you shone a lot of light on this topic for me. And I want to thank you so much for coming on and being a part of this a part of this interview. It's actually a post. It's gonna be a post, and it's I'm gonna have clips of, you know, what we've said. So we'll let you know when it comes out, definitely.
Okay,
Thanks so
awesome.
much for coming on.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm glad I could help you, and you know, feel free to reach out if you have any more questions.
I sure will. Thank you, and see
You're
you at the
welcome.
next mastermind.
Yes, next week. Do you feel ready for it? Do you have questions and things you want to talk
I
about?
have questions, but I wanted to get done with all my interviews because then I'll have more questions. So actually, as I'm doing the interviews, there are things I had never even thought about that I have to, you know, now think about and then figure out how I'm going to do it, you know, and maybe even get started trying to get one podcast set up or something and see what other questions come up. But I'll definitely have questions because we have the meeting not this week but the next week, right?
Yeah, next Wednesday.
So definitely by this weekend I should have my questions together enough to put them out there.
Okay, sounds
But I'm
great.
so glad I found you guys and you guys accepted me to the group because guess what? Now I'm thinking podcasting.
Yeah, and you fit right in because a lot of us are new. Most of us, except for Kim, have only been doing it for, you know, 6 to 9 months.
Yeah.
So we're
There's a lot of experience. I've talked to some people that have been doing this for a while, and I've talked to some people that are brand new to it, and I did that intentionally because the people that have been doing it for a while, most of them have forgotten the challenges that they had coming in, you know, and the people that are doing it right now, they give you a clearer picture of what, you know, the struggle is, you know, and what you need to be looking out for, and, you know, stuff like that. So it's a wealth of information, and I'm so glad that you agreed to be part of this. So thanks so much.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Thank you.